All right, guys, welcome to an episode. This is Close and Conquer on the road. I'm with my man Xavier Miller, one of my favorite people in the entire world. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So, quick story. I had done, you were like one of the first podcasts I ever did.
I remember you told me, yeah.
Yeah.
What you said, yep. You said,
How did we meet? You remember?
I don't even. No. Brendan connected us.
That's right. So I talked to this guy one day for a
Yep.
minute. He connected us.
Yep.
I come out Dallas and we did the podcast.
Yep.
And
then we did.
I was like, when I was done, because it was first like really at the beginning, first one I ever really did, and I'm like, God, it made me start thinking about what I was doing, because your message was clear to me. You're like, dude, I'm gonna get people on. I'm gonna talk about like you started walking through your history. That made a lot of sense to me, and then it got me refocused on what I was trying to do. And then I was like, damn, who are all these people? And the guy I was working with at the time was like, dude, he's big. Look at all the people he's got following him. So I was trying to build my thing up. So thank you for helping me get involved in this, man.
No, thank you, man. Ever since we connected, it's been amazing. You didn't help me tenfold from personal, just hearing all the advice you've been giving, listening to conversations we done had. It's been very helpful. So I'm thankful myself.
Well, it's good to have you on, man. Tell everybody that's watching. If they have, most everybody that follows me does know you. If they haven't heard, they don't know you yet.
Okay.
Give them a quick introduction to you and what you've been doing.
So my name is Xavier Miller. I'm the host of the Millionaire Mindset podcast. I am an Air Force vet. I'm from Chicago. I left Chicago at the age of 20, joined the military, did 6 years in the military. Right before I got out, I got into real estate, investing into stocks, crypto. This was around 2016, 2017. Made some money, got out the military, decided I wanted to share my story and help others. The focus was Chicago, and it blew up bigger than I ever could imagine. And now that's the quickest brief on who I am.
So the podcast name's great.
Yep.
So you're sitting around, when did you decide you wanted to do it? When did you come up with that name? And then how'd you get the thing rolling?
This when I was in the military, I was deployed. I was in Doha, Qatar. I was there for 7 months. And it's nothing to do. You work for 12 hours, 6 days a week. So I had nothing to do but like listen to podcasts. That was my introduction to podcasting. So every day I'm just listening to podcasts while I'm at work, while I'm leaving. And I didn't think about creating one until I went back home and I started making good money. And I was documenting the process. And I got so many friends.
You were documenting the process.
I was documenting.
Okay.
So people from back home, they're like, bro, what's the deal? Hook me up with this, hook me up with that. And I'm like, yo, I still had a job at the time. So I'm like, I can't talk on the phone to everybody. So I was like, I'm going to create a podcast. And that'll be a central location for everybody to come just hear the stuff that I've been doing. Not only that, it'll be fun for me. So my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she came up with the name.
Really?
She was like, Millionaire Mindsets. And I was like, shit, that's perfect.
It's a great name.
She came up with it.
So no intention of a podcast, but you were documenting it just because you like to document stuff, or just
because I knew I wanted to build a brand, but I didn't know it would lead to podcasts. I just know I wanted to build a brand, and I always heard Gary Vee say, "Document, don't create."
Yeah.
So and I was like, oh, that always made sense to me, because when you're creating things, you thinking too much.
Correct.
You just put the camera up or you just record. It's easy.
So when did you know? Because how many people you got subscribe on YouTube?
So on YouTube because we went to YouTube last. We got into YouTube. It's only been 2 years. We got about 40K on YouTube, but on audio we get around 200,000 downloads a month. 200,000
downloads a podcast. When did you know it was gonna be big? Because it's big, but when did you realize, like, damn, I actually got something here?
The first 6 months, because it's strange, man. The first 6 months I was on Twitter, and I got really popular on Twitter. And then my following is like my entire following. Every time I released the episode, they would go support it. And then within the first 6 months of recording, we was getting like 10,000 downloads every episode. And it was like, oh shit, this is going pretty rapidly. That's when I knew like we had something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I knew pretty early on.
So now you're putting out your documenting everything. You got your content out, your podcast. What's your mission now? What drives you from the podcast? Like, for all the people that are listening, what are you hoping that it does for them?
So, for them, that's a great question, man. People rarely ask me that these days. So, I want it to be like something from when I was 20 years old. I was kind of lost on like what I wanted to do in life. I didn't know, like, this was like before social media went super crazy. I'm kind of making myself sound super old. I'm only 30, but it was like I wish, like, man, I could meet somebody or have a mentor that's doing these amazing things that I could be a fly on the wall for the conversations they have. So that's always been the biggest goal for me. Like somebody like you come on my show, the extreme success you have, the people that's listening, that's 18, 19, 25 years old, these things they come from a small town, small city. This is like anomalies to them. They can't believe it. But the opportunity to be a fly on the wall, just to hear your advice, your wisdom, all the things you've been through, that's invaluable. So that was the main thing I want to help people that's coming up, whether it's a man or a woman, that you be a fly on the wall for these conversations. It lets you know that anything, and it sounds cliche, but it lets you know that anything is truly possible. You put the work in and you get the right mentality to do it, because that's everything. And that's what was the main focus when we started the show. I wanted to dive in on what's people's mindset. Okay, you made millions of dollars, you made however much money you made, but how did you obtain this mindset to get there? Because if your mind isn't right, you're not going to get the money anyway. Then if you do get the money, you're going to fuck it up.
Correct.
So it's like, what happened for you to acquire this kind of mindset, this way of thinking? And that's kind of what I always want to dive in, so I can help people understand, like, this is the key point for it. Anybody can do this. It doesn't cost money for you to start thinking differently. You know what I'm saying? So that's my main thing I want to help with the listeners.
Well, it's funny because you talk about not being sold at 30. So I'm 51. When I was growing up, there was no confusion of who was making money.
What do you mean by that?
There was no social media.
Right.
What was you going to do? Get on your rotary telephone and call somebody and say you was making money?
Right.
You either had the car, had the house, had the lifestyle. You didn't. You couldn't fake it. There was nowhere to put it. So you knew growing up, he's doing well. When whatever well was to you financially, he's not. There was no pretend. You couldn't hide from it. Like, it was the most transparent thing literally in the world. Think about that.
No, you fucking up my brain right now.
You couldn't post a picture of somebody else's car or stay in Airbnb and go check it out. Like, you lived where you lived. You drove what you drove. You owned what you owned. The companies were the companies. There was no confusion for us. We never knew what we didn't know. We didn't know what the future was going to be, right? But in today's world, a lot of it, you don't know what's real. You don't, because people are documenting things that are not necessarily true. It ain't even really their journey.
At all.
Yeah. You've done an amazing job, because I do watch your stuff and I love it. You've done an amazing job of really keeping it real. Always when I watch. Like, it's real. I appreciate that. The questions are good, and it's always to get to, and my guess is it's because you want the 20-year-old, the 18, whoever's watching, you want them to know where it's coming from. Because if not, it's got no value, right?
Absolutely.
What is the biggest change in you today as a businessman compared to when you first started? If you said, Sean, these are one or two things I'm doing now, or that have made me that have turned me into the businessman I am. Because you're a businessman. Yeah. And you run a very successful business, and that's your business. You raise a family on your business. You move into that house on your business. You did all that on your business. Yep. What are some things about you that are different than when you started that you picked up along the way?
Man, that's.
I'm trying to get good at the question. I'm working on it.
That's a hell of a question right there, and that's a great question. But I would say the number one thing is taking. How can I put this? Understanding that it is a business first and foremost, because when you don't understand that, you'll get taken advantage of, and you don't know your value. You might undersell yourself. You might oversell yourself, depending on what it is. So the first thing was me really understanding it was a business and treating it as a business, because oftentimes people they'll start a business and they'll treat it like it's a hobby. It's like I'm going to work it Monday. I'm going to take a couple of days. I'm going to work it whenever there's stuff going on. Whenever I got some money coming, that's when I'm going to work. Unlike when you got a business, it might go 2 weeks where it might not be no money coming in, but you still need to work at it every single day. You got to get up early, work all day, work as many hours as necessary. So that was the main flip for me to be like, yo, this is really a business. Because I went from a military background, and they gave me the discipline and all the set system that I needed. So I knew when I transferred out, I could take those skills and just put this into my own thing. So that was the biggest thing for me. And also, because I'm in this industry, is discernment. That's probably the biggest thing that I've learned over the years, because coming up in Chicago, you're kind of like, I don't want to say sheltered by things, but you just grow up around the people you grow up around. You're not really exposed to different kinds of ways of living, different kinds of ways of thinking. Not even other races sometimes, because Chicago is a very segregated city.
Correct.
Like I didn't grow up around like white people. I grew up around Hispanics, blacks and Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is like it teaches you. I had to learn how to be in different settings and different environments and have discernment, because like you said, there's a lot of people that's full of shit online.
100%.
And with a platform like this, I can't afford to not have discernment and bring the people on my platform and they just full of shit and they lying. So over the years, I think I'll become so much better at just meeting somebody within the first 5 to 10 minutes and knowing like something's not adding up and knowing when to trust my gut.
Yeah.
Like with my gut saying something's off about this, to say no, I'm following that. It took me a while though. That's not something that I knew immediately.
Because you get excited,
Yep,
and you don't treat it like a business, and there's no discernment, and then everybody's in your shit.
everybody.
Is it hard when you're following your gut? Like somebody's wanting to do something with you,
Yep.
and you're following your gut, and your gut's saying, no, man. Like, no. Whether it's, I don't trust this guy, he's full of shit, get hard on my brand, are those hard conversations for you to have with people?
Not me. No. So I think
Just help people, because I think it's hard for a lot of people.
I think
they know, but they're like, dude, what do I say? It's like, like I know it's not, and they go ahead and just do it because they choose that over getting uncomfortable and having a conversation with somebody.
damn. That's me personally. I feel like because I really value my brand. I know how much time I put into this, so that comes first. So if I'm uncomfortable, I'm gonna put myself second, even if it's something I really want to do, and I'm like, nah, my gut is telling me don't do it, but I think I still want to do it just because of my own reasons. I'm gonna put the business first and say, nah, this could backfire. I'm not doing it. I've had somebody offer me $13,000 to come on the show, and this is early on. This is
like
early.
I'll give you $13,000, come out for an hour of work.
Yep,
I want to be on your show.
Yep, but the thing is, I didn't know this dude from me, and something in my gut told me like, this dude, something about this not right. Like it seems like a scam. It's like something's not right. And I have people around me. They like, man, 13,000.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
For an hour
you figure it
work,
out
I
later.
don't care what he
I don't
said.
care what he said. Like I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So everybody's like, man, you tripping, dude. You should have took that. About 6-7 months later, my gut, the feelings I had came to be true.
It was confirmed that the guy was just completely full of shit, scumbag, scam,
and the whole nine.
And you could have had him on.
And I could have had him on. And I said, that's why I trust my gut. And that's why I'm gonna stick with that. I don't care what it is. So I don't have a hard time having the uncomfortable conversations or just saying, no, I'm not doing this. This doesn't feel right.
So when you this was early, so it'd be easier now, right, with the money. But I think that people don't understand that it's a slippery slope. Meaning, like, you go, well, if I do that, yeah, but dude, you're trying to build something, right?
Yep.
And part of that is I'll go to work and make $13,000 doing something else, but I'm not going to sacrifice this.
I'm not.
What do you? If I were to, I'm not a big like 5-year plan. I remember being in school and they're like, "What's your 5-year plan?" I'm like, "Not to be a teacher." Like, stop asking me what my like. That's just so stupid. Like, my 5-year plan. You know what I mean? So I was like, but as you're growing this thing, what do you accomplish? What's next for you and your brand?
So I started this with the goal in mind because if anybody know me personally, like off camera, I'm more of a reserved, quiet type.
You take it all in.
I'll take it all in.
But you're watching everything.
I'm watching everything.
He watches everything.
I'm watching that.
No doubt.
I'm paying attention to everything, everybody, like the whole thing. But my goal is to build a network so I can kind of fade to the back. Because I know at the end of the day, as I get older, maybe I don't know if this is something I want to do when I'm 40, 50 years old. Even though I may very well do want to do it when I'm 40.
You might be a dumbass like me at 51 and still be doing it.
No, you doing it, man. I love everything you're doing. So it's like I want to put people in position where they can like kind of replace me, and I start other shows, and I just work behind the scenes in the background because that's always been like the long-term goal of mine. It just be to be off camera, behind the scenes, yeah, and just live my life. Like I don't really care to have people like all in my business in my personal life. I really don't. I just do it now because this is how I started, and I still have the passion to do this and share my stories. But who knows how long I have this passion? So that's my end goal. And I know at the end of the day in media, owning content and owning a boatload of good content is where the real money is.
No doubt.
That's where the people say the hundreds of millions, the billions. That's where the money comes from. 100%. Owning the content, and that's my goal.
So, from an owning the content standpoint, because you see, I was talking to a guy the other day. He did that. I like him. He's a nice person, but and his show got picked up, and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Dude, I love you, but I think that they need content on these streaming. So like, they just need content. They can't get and
can't get enough."
And he said to me, he goes, "I don't think what I did was just that good, but I just keep making content. And if I make enough content, like I'm doing the best I can. I'm not trying for it not to be good." But I want you to speak to this because it hit me between the eyes when he said, I said, "Say that again." He goes, "I just keep putting out content.
Yep.
I'm doing the best I can. I'm never trying to shortcut it." He goes, "I don't think I'm that great, but it's all timing. So sometimes some of these services or whomever it is, streamings are looking for content in some way. And I have so much content because I'm always working." And you talked about not treats. A lot of the folks that watch this, they're aspiring to be entrepreneurs. They're entrepreneurs, whatever. And being an entrepreneur is the coolest thing I've ever done. Like outside of being a parent, it's like it's a fucking rush that's legal.
It is. That's
like it's
that's
legal.
The best explanation of it. Yeah.
You talk about treating it like a job.
Yep.
What are some things that you realized early on? Shit, like not only is this a job, here's these things that I have to do because you're always in it.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you're doing, or if everybody here was looking to launch a company and you were mentoring them, what would you be saying to them about what they need to do? Because we hear it all the time, people. Then they'll say, "Well, it's cliche, but you're your own boss. Be great to yourself." And all that is true. But what are things that you did, Xavier, to treat it like a job so the people around you knew he's not like us. This is a job to him. We're playing. He's not.
That's a good question. So the first thing I would say is set a schedule. And that was the first thing I did when I decided I wanted to be a podcaster. I'm like, I'm going to set a schedule. And not only that, I'm going to make the best content possible. Because so many people, like you just said, someone asked me this question recently. They was like, "Do you think it's too late if I start a podcast?" And he's a very successful guy. He was like, "Because everybody has one." And I was like, "Nah, it's not too late at all." He was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because good content is always going to win." I was like, most of the content that's out there is shit.
Amen.
The reason you're going to win is because you're making amazing content.
I appreciate that.
And you dedicated.
You're going to win.
And you're
I ain't letting up.
And you're dedicated. If you're dedicated and you're making good content, it doesn't matter how many podcasts and things are out there, you're going to win. So with that being said, I would say create a schedule and dedicate yourself to making the best content possible. But also, you need to have experiences, especially if you're starting off young. See, the great one-up, the competitive advantage you have, Sean, is you're starting it after you already done amazing things. So you will never run out of topics. There's nothing you can
I
ever
talk for months at a time.
You can create 1 million episodes, but 100%. There's so many other people I talk to. They're super young. They haven't really done anything, and they want to start a podcast. I'm like, what are you going to talk about?
Correct.
You want to talk about pop culture all day? Like, if you want to do that, go ahead, go have at it. But I don't think that's a whole nother conversation. But I would say create a schedule, be dedicated, make content, make a boatload. That was my strategy when I came in the industry. I said, I'm going to make a boatload of content where people can't deny me because there's going to be so much. They're going to see it everywhere. I came, when I started making episodes, I think I did 3 a week. 3 1 hour. Sometimes it was 2 hours.
Damn.
And I was like, I did that for like 8 months. Hammering it out. I created a schedule. I said, I had a whiteboard in my living room. This is all my guests for the next 3 months. I had all their names down. Before they even agreed to it, I wrote it down.
Really?
And then when they agreed, check. Sometimes they would say, I'm not going to do it. I would come back 2 months later, ask them again. Finally got that check. We got that date. Yeah. So you just got to be very, very committed because it's not going to be easy, especially if you don't have disposable income. If you got money, that makes everything easy. Studio time, cameras, equipment. If you don't have that disposable income, you're going to really have to grind it out. Like you can't, especially now with social media and everybody making content, you got to grind it out. You got to really put it out there.
Well, I think, too, and you are right, because had I done this a long time ago with no money and no experience, and that's my thing, too. You know, I was sitting with, I'll be honest, it was me. I was with Andrew, my boy, and I was sitting with Patrick Bet-David.
Okay.
And, you know, we in the same, and we, competed, and I was very much like, I'm going to kick everybody's ass, including yours. Like, that was no problem for me, right? That was what I did. That's what I lived for, and he's obviously been doing this for a long time.
He's killing it.
He's killing it. And he looked at me and he said, "Man, when you got in insurance, he goes, I can regurgitate what you were saying about why everybody should work with you. And I was like, yeah, that's what I did. He said, okay, let me ask you something. How many people do you think have exited multiple industries, companies in multiple industries successfully? And I said, I don't know. He goes, well, I don't know the number either, but it's not that large. He said, you've done it in real estate, waste management, life insurance. Most people would love to have one successful exit, or maybe one or two in the same. You were in three. And he's like, start talking about this. So stuff, but I got around people that could give me the information, and no matter how good I did at these other things, I'm like, dude, I don't care. Tell me. Like, when I went to you, I'm like, dude, tell me. Like, I'm totally good. I want to get better. When I had Shannon Sharp in a podcast, we were talking on the way back afterwards, and I said, man, how do you figure out? And he's looked at me and goes, I don't have to figure out I'm hosting a podcast. My job's ask questions, stay out of the way. And literally stay out of the way. What do you say? It ain't Dateline, bro. You ever get mad about this guy said this? That ain't my job. My job is to I talk to people. They have a fair place to talk. Everybody gets to judge what they said. That's what America's all about. And I was like, yeah. And the second thing he said was what you just said. He's like, dude, I mean, because he's doing everything.
He's doing everything.
And he's like, dude, it's live. Like, I'm live. Like, I don't care where I am, what I'm doing, but you can trust the content. And I want you to speak to this because I love, this is in any business too. I really, like, it was this way in real estate, waste management, life insurance. Dude, people tend to trust the motion that's predictable, right? If I say, hey, we're launching an agency, we're going to sell pillows. And I go, Xavier, here's the way it works. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we dial the phone from 8 to 8 to sell the pillows.
Yep.
Tuesday and Thursday, recruit. And we live by that schedule, like, with no negotiation.
No negotiation, yep.
You did that with your pod.
Yep.
And people could rely on you to always be showing up, right? You meet a lot of people, because I remember we were in a restaurant one night, and you said, dude, it's weird, because I'll be out places, and people are like, yo, I like your stuff. Was that weird that, like, you could be anywhere, and people are like, yo, good whatever they say to you? Is that weird? Is it cool? What does it feel like?
So now, not to even sound arrogant enough, because some people might be like, it sounds arrogant.
Dude, first of all, who cares what they think? They ain't got. But I mean, and you're not arrogant. He ain't arrogant at all. But it's real. My mom said, ain't bragging if you can back it up.
Oh, that's a fact. So it feels. So I'll say this: it feels amazing because they're recognizing me for something that, one, I love, two, that I know is helping people, and three, it's something that I own. It's mine. So that's invaluable. But it's an amazing feeling. I was in Cabo. It was me, my mom, my wife, and my daughter. We was in the airport in Cabo, and somebody came up. And my mom, mind you, my parents, they're in their 60s. All this social media shit, they don't pay attention to any of it. They don't really.
They don't watch your stuff. They ain't on so. They don't nothing.
They know what I do.
They love you, but they ain't watching nothing. Nobody's stuff.
Nothing. They ain't watching shit. They know what I do. That's pretty much the sum of it.
Yeah.
We in the airport. So this guy, he walks up to me. He like, oh shit, Xavier. My mom, she's like, what the? She's like, man, I love your stuff, blah, 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 blah. He walks off. My mom was like, whoa, so you must be doing well, huh? I said, yeah, I'm doing all right, Mom.
I'm doing with you in Cabo. I'm taking you all to Cabo.
Exactly.
I must be doing okay.
I'm like, I'm doing all right. She was like, wow. She's like, how much has your podcast gone? So I get to explain it to her. But to answer your question, it's an amazing feeling. Like, I got pulled over once, and the officer, he knew me, and he let me go.
Really?
Yeah. This was downtown Dallas.
Really?
Yep, he pulled me over. He was like, oh, shit, you do with the podcast? He's like, yeah, I love your shit. I listen to it all the time. He's like, don't worry about it, man.
See, man.
I was like, so it's a great feeling, man, because I know I put a whole bunch of work into it, and to see it pay off, to see it resonate with people and people love it, that's like, you can't even describe that. Like, how, because I know people come up to you all the time. What does it feel? What would you say it feels like?
It's very humbling when
it
is, because I'm like you, like, I weirdly enough, a lot of the same stuff, like, I know I built something.
Yeah.
But also I want to bring value.
Exactly.
And I think one of the things I've looked for in this industry, and a lot of industries, is, I've not told you this, but one of the things I liked the most about you by far when I met you was that you pull for other people even if it doesn't benefit you. Mm-hmm. Like and you do. And I watch too. I talk a lot too, but I watch. And I was like, I got to talk to that dude, because a lot of people don't have that.
That's true.
And if you want to grow in your businesses, you need to be around people that are cheering for you even if it doesn't benefit them. You find your friendships and your mentorships. So for me, it feels really cool. And I always try to say to anybody, no matter what they talk to me about, is, dude, let me be clear. Anything that you're seeing anybody do in business, you can do. You can do it. Now, do I think you can launch a podcast and talk about, I'm 22 years old and I played college baseball 3 years. I think that's going to be a tough sell. I mean, good luck, but you found a way to market the title, market who you are, market what you're doing, and get good guests on. And I love what you said. I put them up there before they even said yes.
Yep.
Could they have the same attitude? Yes. Does it mean they have the same success? I'm not saying you would.
Right.
But I'm saying you'd find your own, like you could go do something, right? And I had Chris Carter on recently, the Hall of Fame football player.
Hall of Famer.
And I loved it when he said, do you think it takes talent to be an entrepreneur? And I was like,
that's a good question.
Yeah. And I go, no, absolutely not. He goes, really? I go, no. If you're asking for yourself, no. If you're asking for anybody else, no. Does it take talent to be in the NFL? Hall of Fame, hell yes. Take talent to be in the NFL, yes. But I think what bothered me about people that were making content that I was watching is they were convincing people they were special. And I still have this argument with some of the dudes I work with that do some stuff for me. They're like, you got to stop saying everybody can do what you do. And I'm like, they can. They can. That's what. You're going to be you. I'm going to be me. My man's going to be him. Like, that girl's going to be her. This guy's going to be her. Whoever we're talking about, those people in the world, they're going to be who they are. But there is no innate talent to be an entrepreneur. So when I meet with people, I always kind of think back to being 51 years old. Dude, we found mentors by it was not easy to find mentors. Yeah, we knew who everybody was, but what were you going to do? There was nowhere to go. There was no networking. That's why we almost had to, you see a lot of athletes use their coaches. Because a lot of the men that coached when I was growing up, they were successful financially. They could afford to coach. They had their own company. They could get out when they wanted to. They could take us. They could go to the travel tournament. They could do that stuff. And then, thankfully for me, no offense if they watch, their kids weren't that good. So they wanted me on the team because they want to win. And they're like, damn, my kid ain't that good. Wish he was better. He's going to be rich because I'm rich. But shit, I'm trying to get rich. I want to know what you know. So it's a really cool feeling to know that you helped somebody in any capacity. That's super cool. I had a, guy message me one day. This was the most, and I'm not, it brought me to tears, and I don't cry a lot. He had gone to a meeting in a event we put on, and he had sent an email saying that he had made a decision before the event to take his own life. Straight up. Just said, I was going to take my own life on my birthday, and I went to the event, and I met, I heard you talk, I heard a lot of people speak, I meet people, and I realized that if finances, and I always say, because it's true, if your finances are your worst problem, get down on your hands and knees and thank God. Because it's a problem you can fix. If that's your worst problem. I remember when I was, my worst time, going through bankruptcy, losing everything, I was like, dude, this is the worst shit I got. I'm very blessed beyond belief. And he's like, I heard you say that. And not that he's making millions of dollars, but he's alive. He decided to start in his business. And I'm like, dude, by just being nice to somebody and speaking life into them, and I think that, so, when people do that, it's pretty cool. And I always like to watch really famous people and see how they treat people.
Me too.
And sometimes I'm really disappointed. I ain't gonna dog him. I am. And sometimes I'm really excited. I'm like, that's just a cool dude right there. He could act a different way and he doesn't, and I really like that.
I want to ask you because man, you said some stuff that kind of fucked my head up. The first one you said but before social media, back in the day, you couldn't fake it.
Never.
It's that's so interesting to me because social media is our world now. Most of us can't even imagine a world without it.
Correct.
So explain explain for the people, even for me, what did that look like for people that wasn't faking it? Did you see people with money growing up, or was it just
So I grew up. So my parents split when I was really young, and kind of to your point, where my dad moved to, you talk about segregation. There was nobody white, and then where my mom moved to, there was nobody that wasn't white. You know what I mean? So it was a very weird. It was so it was great because I didn't grow up segregated. So I wasn't I dealt with so many different people. I never thought nothing about it. And obviously it was a different time back then. But I never, like, even growing up, as I got through school, I was like, dude, I didn't know people were like, because I didn't ever experienced it, ever. Because when I would go to my mom's, the people knew where my dad lives. They weren't going to say nothing stupid. So if they felt a certain way, they're like, you ain't going to say it to him because, like, most of his friends over there, they ain't white. And then when I went over there, like, nobody said nothing to me. So, but when I say that, it was very clear to me, like,
if people had it or not.
Yeah, and back then real estate wasn't like it is now.
What do you mean?
There wasn't this many million. I mean, dude, there weren't like subdivisions that had. There were not. It's everywhere now. All these major cities. I'm from Connecticut.
Right.
When I go to Connecticut now and see all this, it's like, dude, where'd all these come from? I can remember growing up. My dad being in New London, my mom being in East Lyme, and knowing like, oh my God, there's one subdivision in East Lyme. It's nice with like 10 houses. And it was like, they must be worth like like I didn't know. I'm like, there must be millionaires, man. And they were probably, dude, you're talking about 1990. They were probably $400,000 houses, which it was 1990. So that's obviously nice. A lot more. Yeah, but there weren't many. But you knew them dudes, they know something. So you couldn't fake it. When you went to your games and you saw their moms and dads pull up, you saw what they drove. When they went to school, you saw what they drove. There was nothing, you couldn't fake any of it. You know, and you couldn't pretend to own a company. You couldn't, and I don't think that we did that either. And also, weirdly enough, back then, people were like, my mom, we were really broke. And people talked a lot of shit about me and my brother. Not to our faces because most of them are cowards. Never to my face. But even after, I was in a gym one day, and these kids I went to high school with, they were a couple years behind me. They're like, we used to talk about y'all because you lived there like in a subsidized apartment complex. And I was like, motherfucker, you never said it to my face. And then I was like, I should kick both your asses right now, which I didn't do because I want to get sued and whatever. Not. Right. I mean, I feel like beating a shit out of both of them at the same time, but I didn't. But what's funny is that back then, and then nowadays, there's a lot of folks that are like, well, I wouldn't want any money. Like, almost like the opposite. They're like embarrassed to have it. I'm like, dude, I wasn't embarrassed when I was broke, and I'm not embarrassed that I'm fucking rich. I've not been embarrassed every time. I've never been fucking embarrassed when I was broke, and I don't give a fuck when I'm rich. You be mad at me whenever. In the good news, I don't give a shit about your opinion at all. So we just knew, and I think that there was just and there wasn't that many ways to make money either. Like you had a job. Small businesses back then were mom and pop shops because there was no e-commerce. Yeah. There was none of that. So like you made money like running the hardware store. You know, you owned an apparel store where you sold stuff, like, and they weren't huge businesses.
Right.
You went to the big malls, you bought all your stuff there. You knew who had what there, and you also knew who owned. You knew based on what people wore, because there was no fake anything either. Like nowadays, you can fake Rolex, you can fake anything you want, and it's hard to tell. Yeah. There was none of that back then, at all. And if there was, I didn't know. But like none of it. So you're like, dude, how did he get them Jordans? Like he's rich. Like seriously, like they're rich, obviously. I remember like going to the mall going like, how much that jersey's $100. Like that dude's got it, he must be fucking rich. So you really couldn't hide. Like first day of school, I can remember like I always hated first day of school because
everybody wore their best outfit.
Yeah, man. I'd have like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was like, oh my God, what do I do myself? But I'm like, they're all fucking excited and I'm just like whatever, dude. Like, whatever we have from last year, like, and I would never be mad at my mom and be like, why don't we get to have this? I would never do that. So it was different, dude.
Ooh,
completely different.
So for the people, let me ask you this. So 2024, keeping it current, for the people that are faking it, let me ask you this. Can you tell?
That's a great question. So if I know anything about them, I can. I can't always tell. Okay. That's the hard part. Unless I put time in to go figure it out, you know? And what bothers me is there's a lot of really good people that get head faked. This is work. Making money is work. The content you put in is work. All that stuff is work. And they'll go run to do something that makes no kind of sense. I was saying this the other day, somebody's asking me about somebody's video of, you know, Kevin O'Leary talking about crypto, and I was like, you know, how great it is that's being regulated. I'm like, dude, he makes money on the compliance software. He's a big investor, and he's always said it was great, and it wasn't great when it wasn't regulated, and good people got hurt, and you don't get rich overnight, and I don't need your software to do Forex. I mean, like, dude, take your shit and mind your own business. Just keep it the fuck away from me. I'm not mad, but it's hard to tell. is my answer. It's a long answer to a short question. It's hard for me to tell.
The reason I asked that because I feel like this is a personal belief I have, and I was speaking with someone else about this. Once you're doing well, not all the time, but oftentimes, it doesn't matter what you're wearing, driving.
Right.
You can't fake energy.
Agreed. If you meet them in person, I agree. Yeah.
Or like
online's hard. In person, I agree.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like in person,
Oh,
can
yeah.
you tell?
Person, you can tell.
You're right.
You can tell when they're full of shit.
Okay.
It don't take long. But the dangerous thing online. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, tell me how. How can you tell?
When somebody's trying too hard to be something they're not, you can tell. Also, if they don't have a good vibe or good energy, it would have been like about impossible for them to go make money. So, like, how would you have done that? How would you have gotten people to follow you, gotten people to want to do deals with you, negotiated with you? You wouldn't have, because if it's just me and you got no energy, dude, how did you build it? You didn't. So that's probably the
easiest way to tell.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way. That's why I wanted to ask you, because I feel like a lot of people, when I speak with people about this, they be like, I don't know, but I think it may take you a certain level of accomplishments to understand what that is, to read that energy,
correct,
or whatever people want to call it, aura, energy.
Well, it's getting around people. Because that's the thing. I was in a meeting today with 60 people that are all CEOs of massive companies, 90% of them publicly traded. And it was funny because I was sitting in the room and I'm like, this is the strongest room energy-wise.
You can feel it.
Oh, yeah. Literally. Which made me feel even better. Because I feel pretty good about what I'm doing on a regular. Like, you know, but like when they get up and ask me to talk about stuff, I'm like, I'm even raising my game because I can feel it. It's magnetic.
Without them even saying anything.
They don't say nothing. The way they carry themselves, move, look, the way they dress, not really, just how they feel about themselves, how they are.
Right.
Like I walked into that room and half the people, because I mean, these are different industries, got up, came over, shook hands, the whole deal. But I'll go to a room with 60 broke people who won't, like,
exactly. Posture.
Like, dude, what, like, I'm right here. Do you mind if I sit down? The guy next to me is like, hey, good to meet you, man. How you doing? So the guy got up. The dude's like, hey, what's up, man? And then I'm like, damn, you're the CEO of that company? Like, that's a massive multi-billion-dollar company. He's like, man, I follow you on social media. I'm like, you follow me on social media? He's like, yeah, man, I love this. I love that. I love this. I was like, damn. So you can tell.
I think that's a good lesson for people, because a lot of times people get scammed by these people on social media or people they know in real life, and they be like, shit, I don't even know how it happened. And I try to tell people, like, energy, you can fake a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. It's hard to fake energy. It's just a vibe that you can feel for someone. And if they don't have that right energy, or like I said, aura, whatever it is, that might be, I'm not saying it's 100% certain, but that might be a sign that they're not who they say they are.
Correct. Because
you cannot, I've been around a lot of people making a lot of content, a lot of people. Everybody that's ultra successful, that's the one thing they all have in common. Mm-hmm. You could just, before they fucking, like you said, before they speak, you can see it in their posture, the way they walk, the way they talk. Like, everything about them is going to give off, like, oh, they doing some big shit.
And then when one finds another, you can tell.
Yes.
Like, when I walk in, if I see somebody, I'll connect with them if they have it. Yep. And if they don't, I don't. I mean, I'm nice. I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, we're doing something. You ain't a horrible person, cool. But like when I meet, like we met in that spot you did your first one in. I'm like, dude, I definitely fuck with him. Yeah. He's got good energy.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know what I mean? Like, you just know going in. So, well, hey, man. First of all, thank you for being on Close and Conquer. You're an absolute beast, bro.
Thank you.
You gotta get back on too. So you got to get back on. We need you to get back on again.
You know,
you got a lot to offer.
Whenever you're ready, I'm here.
Good, man. We're gonna get you back on. He's everywhere. Millionaire Mindset Pod. You can find, where they find that? Everywhere?
Everywhere. Every platform there is.
Every platform is. He's on Instagram.
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. What else they got out there? I'm trying to think of anything else. Well, that's pretty.
Whatever it is, he's
whatever
on
it is, we on.
And hey, he's pouring out information. He has some great people on there. He's a great interviewer, super smart guy. More importantly, just a really good dude. Like, just a really good human being.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate that.
I appreciate having you on, man. Guys, I appreciate you. Like, subscribe, share, send somebody that needs to hear it. If you love this one, we'll drop a link. There's something else you need to check out. My man, Xavier Miller. Thanks for jumping on Close and Conquer, guys.